بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد كتاب الفتن باب ما جاء في قول الله تعالى واتقوا فتنة لا تصيبن الذين ظلموا منكم خاصة وما كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يحذر من الفتن وبه قال حدثنا علي بن عبد الله قال حدثنا بشر بن السري قال حدثنا نافع بن عمر عن ابن أبي مليكة قالت أسماء عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أنا على حوضي أنتظر من يرد علي فيؤخذ بناس من دوني فأقول أمتي فيقال لا تدري مشوا على القهقرة قال ابن أبي مليكة اللهم إنا نعوذ بك أن نرجع على أعقابنا أو نفتن صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد عدد ما ذكره الذاكرون وصل على سيدنا مولانا محمد عدد ما غفل عن ذكره الغافلون اللهم صل وسلم على عبدك ورسولك اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد أفضل صلواتك بعدد معلوماتك. Tonight inshallah we're going to start this new chapter, and this new chapter is called Kitab al-Fitan. Again, we're still using the book of Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi, Sahih Al-Bukhari. So every hadith that will be mentioned here, that will be presented here, meets the highest standard set by Imam Bukhari and other muhaddithin rahimahumullah. And this chapter is important in the time that we live in, the time that is filled with so many tests, trials, tribulations, and challenges. And this time is very challenging for Muslims in particular, because Muslims, if you take the map and see which places are such where Muslims are suffering in large numbers, and you can start coloring those places, you'll end up coloring probably the majority of the map. Because in majority of places, Muslims are suffering in one way or the other. In some places, Muslims are suffering physically at the hands of their rulers, at the hands of oppressors. In some places, Muslims are suffering physically at the hands of others than their rulers. And in some places, Muslims are maybe suffering through other challenges like discrimination or hostility in one way or the other. So there are a variety of challenges faced by Muslims all over the world. And in one way or the other, all of this is part of this fitna, all of this is part of this test. This chapter, Kitab al-Fitan, the book of tests and trials, is a very common chapter that can be found in almost every book of hadith. And every book of hadith will present a large collection of prophetic traditions. That is because so much has been said on this chapter by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So many warnings have been issued by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in advance to prepare us, to better equip us to handle with these situations, to face these situations. So much has been said by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's one Sahabi in particular who had a vast knowledge of this chapter. And that Sahabi happens to be Hudayfa bin al-Yaman radiyallahu anhu. He was unique among Sahaba in his collection of large number of ahadith in this chapter from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He himself said about his eagerness on this chapter, he said people used to question Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about salah, about fasting, about zakah, and about other things, and I used to ask Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the challenges, about the tests, about the trials, about the fitnas that were forthcoming. And that is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from time to time would tell him, this is what's going to happen after me. This is what's going to happen after me. This is what's going to happen before the day of judgment. This is what's going to happen. So a lot of predictions made by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam were made to Hudayfa bin Yaman radiyallahu anhu, and he then narrated all of those predictions in form of a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's a very important chapter for all of us to listen carefully and attentively and see what we can learn from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and from the examples of Sahaba. The word Kitabul Fitn, the word fitn is the plural of fitna. And the meaning of fitna or the fitn is trials, tests, tribulations, challenges. All of these are similar meanings of the same word, fitna. And in Arabic language, the actual root of this word is fitn. Fa, ta, and nun. And the scholars of Arabic language, they say that this word is used originally this word was used when the gold was thrown in fire in order to test its purity. How pure the gold is, they would throw it into the fire, into the furnace, and then if it was fake, it would all melt. And if it was pure, they would figure out how much purity is there. And the reason why this word has been used in Quran it has been used in different meanings. In Quran, one meaning of this word is test and trial, as will be mentioned in the ayah that Imam Bukhari has mentioned. Another meaning of this is pure test. And that test is a test to find out whether that person will pass the exam or fail. So about Musa alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put him through a lot of tests. In Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَفَتَنَّاكَ فُتُونًا, that we put you through so many tests. And this is an ayah in Surah Taha, where the story of Musa alayhi salam is mentioned in detail. And under this ayah, under the tafsir of this ayah, Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma has mentioned a long hadith. And in that hadith, he has mentioned almost all of the tests that Musa alayhi salam went through from beginning, even before he was born. So he starts from the birth, not even from the birth, but before the birth. When Musa alayhi salam's mother, she was expecting a child, that's when the test began. And in one narration, he goes back even further, because the test began when Fir'aun was told by some soothsayers that there will be a child born in Banu Israel who will destroy you and destroy your kingdom. So at that time, Fir'aun issued an order that all children who will be born in Banu Israel, they should all be killed. That's when the test began. And then it continued. So many tests. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the plural word the plural word, وَفَتَنَّاكَ فُتُونًا, that we made you go through so many tests. And that was Musa alayhi salam. And another meaning in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used the word fitna is in the meaning of adab. So in one ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that it will be said to the kuffar, to the wrongdoers, ذُوقُوا فِتْنَتَكُمْ, taste the punishment of your wrongdoings. هَذَا الَّذِي كُنْتُمْ بِهِ تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ. This is exactly what you used to look forward to. So the word fitna has multiple meanings, and those multiple meanings will become apparent as we go through the hadith of Rasulullah. Sometimes the word will be used in the sense of test and trial. Sometimes it will be used in the sense of adab, punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the majority of hadith will only pertain to the first meaning, and that is the test and trial. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's word is mentioned, باب ما جاء في قول الله تعالى واتقوا فتنة لا تصيبن الذين ظلموا منكم خاصة. This is from Surah Al-Anfal, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and fear from that challenge, from that trial, which will not only reach those who have done wrong amongst you, but it will reach to all people. So this, the Mufassirin have given various interpretation of this command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What fitna is mentioned here? So in general, the consensus is that sometimes the adab of Allah and the test of Allah comes equally to everyone. So everyone is tested. And then some will pass the test and some will fail the test. Similarly, the adab sometimes comes to all the people, to those who had done wrong and to those who had done nothing wrong. Now, in adab, although they were all taken together, but when the adab is lifted, then they will be judged according to their amal. This is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in one hadith, that sometimes the adab of Allah comes and it envelops all people. But when they will be resurrected, يُبْعَثُونَ عَلَى نِيَّاتِهِمْ, then they will be judged according to their intentions and according to their amal. Then those who have done good, they will be rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and those who have done wrong, they will be punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا كَانَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم يُحَذِّرُ مِنَ الْفِتَنِ. And what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to warn the believers, Muslims, against these trials, how to save yourself from these trials, from these challenges, from these tribulations, and what to do in times of fitna. Because we have a list of commandments from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a list of instructions which gives us guidance on how to respond in times of a fitna, in times of a challenge. So a fitna, for example, two people are fighting. And in that example, obviously it is a challenge, it is a fitna. How should you respond? Should you get involved and take one side, or should you go back and stay out of it? Or if someone comes to your house and puts the gun on your head, how should you respond? You know the other person is also Muslim. Should you take up your arm and try to defend yourself, or should you allow that person to do whatever he came to do? So in times like these, in situations like these, we have instructions from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So sometimes the fitna is individual, and sometimes the fitna is collective. So in some examples, the fitna that people are facing is on a small scale, and only few people are suffering from that fitna. And in some cases, the fitna could encompass the entire society, or the entire city, or the entire country, and then sometimes it encompasses the entire world, like what happened in World War I. and what happened in World War II. The whole world was engulfed in firefight, in battle, in war. So what should Muslims do in times like these? The hadith is narrated by Asma radiallahu anha. She said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Ana ala hawdi, I will be on my fountain, which is called Hawd al-Kawthar, antadiru man yaridu alayhi, and I will be waiting for those who will be coming to my fountain, my water fountain. This is a special fountain. We'll talk about it later sometime inshallah, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made mention of that in Quran, in Surah Al-Kawthar, which is the smallest surah of the Quran as well. Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar. Indeed, we have granted you Kawthar, the fountain of Kawthar. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has made a lot of detailed descriptions of this fountain, this special fountain, which will be special to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the field of Mahshar on the day of resurrection. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, I will be standing on my fountain and I will be waiting for those people who will come to my fountain, ask for water. Because on that day there will be no water, there will be no shade, there will be nothing. And if someone will be given a drink from this fountain, la yadma'u ba'dahu abada, he will never feel thirsty again. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that I will be waiting on my fountain for those who will come for a drink at my fountain. فَيُؤْخَذُ بِنَاسٍ مِّن دُونِي. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, all of a sudden, I will see that some people are being taken away from me while they are coming to me. فَأَقُولُ أُمَّتِي. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will look at those people, he will say to the angels, hold on, these are my people, this is my ummah. Why are you stopping them from coming to this fountain? Let them have the drink from here. فَيُقَالُ. So angels will respond to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, لَا تَدْرِي مَشَوْ عَلَى الْقَهْقَرَ. That, O Prophet of Allah, you don't know these people. These people innovated new things in religion after you. They turned on their heels. So these angels will tell Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that don't worry about these people. They don't deserve to be here. They don't deserve to have a drink from this fountain because they turned away from your religion. They turned away from your sunnah. They turned away from your teachings. First of all, there are other reports in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned that a'rifuhum, I will recognize them. So if they are being recognized by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that is a good thing. That is a good sign for them. That at least Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is recognizing them that they are the ummah. So if someone is being recognized as part of the ummah, as a member of the ummah, then why is he being pushed away? And that's an important question. So the answer to this question is that, first of all, those people who were once part of the faith, for example, people were Muslim, but then unfortunately they changed their religion. Such people are known as murtad and apostates. That's why angels will say to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Mashaw ala al-qahqara." They turn back on your religion. So they were Muslim, but then they turned away. So one of the ways in which Muslims will be recognized on the Day of Judgment is by the illumination of their body parts which they use to wash in wudu. So we wash our face in wudu, we wash our arms in wudu, we wash our feet during wudu. So these body parts will light up, will illuminate. And because of this illumination, everyone will be able to recognize that these people are Muslims. So some of us they said that if someone was Muslim even for a minute and he made wudu once, he will have some illumination because of that wudu, because of the effect that wudu, and that will still be recognized on the day of judgment. So because of that, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will say, oh, I know them, because they have that sign. Because if you're attending a gathering of, let's say, 100,000 people, and out of the 100,000 people, there are 10 people who have unique sign in their hand that they're holding, you will be able to say, oh, these are my people, I know them, because they're holding my sign. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will say that I know them, but the angels who will have more knowledge, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam does not have the knowledge of unseen. When he left from this world, he doesn't know what people are doing afterwards. Only Allah knows. So he will still have the good judgment, because this is what he taught us, that always have good judgment about people. But Allah knows who is sincere in their heart and who deserves something and who does not deserve something. And Allah conveys that knowledge to the angels, who have the job to separate those who deserve the fountain, the water from the fountain, and those who don't. So they will tell Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that no, they do not deserve it. So when they will inform Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that these people don't deserve this water, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will also say, "Suhtan, suhtan," that get away from here, get away from here. This applies also to those who innovate things into the religion, who introduce things into the religion. This is something known as bid'ah. Those who innovate bid'ah, who introduce bid'ah into the religion, they have a very low place in the religion. And in the eyes of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they have no value. Because in a way they're trying to put down Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because everything that we need in our religion, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has already delivered in one way or the other. And what we don't need is something that people start to introduce into the religion, known as bid'ah. So this also applies to that. And this does not apply to the Sahaba. Some people misunderstand this hadith and apply it to the Sahaba and say that on the day of judgment, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will try to say that I recognize these people because they're my Sahaba, but the angels will tell them, oh no, these people, they did bad things after you. So this does not apply to the Sahaba. All the Sahaba, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a promise to them, وَكُلٌّ وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الْحُسْنَى. To each Sahabi, Allah has made a promise of good. And Allah is pleased with them. And they are pleased with Allah. So this applies to each Sahabi, but this warning and this deprivation does not apply to the Sahaba. It applies to all the people who have come after the Sahaba, after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this in general it applies to all the people who will come until the day of judgment. Because all of us, we come after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has left from this world. So Ibn Abi Mulaika rahmatullahi alayhi was a muhaddith. He used to make dua to Allah in these words. He used to say, Allahumma inna na'udhu bika, O Allah, we seek refuge in you, an narji'a ala a'qabina, from turning back on our heels, aw nuftana, or we may be tested and tried in tribulations, in trials. So this is an important dua. Rasulullah used to make this dua as well. Allahumma inna na'udhu bika min an narji'a ala a'qabina aw nuftana fi dinina. That, O Allah, we seek refuge in you from turning back on our heels. Turning back on our heels is an expression to turn away from religion. So you used to practice religion, and then you abandon that practice, you turn away from religion. Or you used to believe in religion, and you turn away from religion, you start to disbelieve in religion, and being tested and tried in matters of religion. The next is the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which he said, "Satarawna ba'di umuran tunkiruna." Soon after me, you will see things that you will dislike, and you will find those things at odd. Those things will not be acceptable to you. The word tunkirunaha comes from munkar, and it is a reference to the wrongdoings. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in this short word, he said that after me, soon after me, you will see things happening that you will not approve and you will dislike. Let's see what is basically being said here. Zayd ibn Wahab said that I heard Abdullah radiallahu anhu saying that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to us, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the Sahaba, إِنَّكُمْ سَتَرَوْنَ بَعْدِي أَثَرَةً وَأُمُورًا تُنْكِرُونَهَا. Soon after me, you will see preference given over you to others, and matters which you will dislike and disapprove. قالوا فما تأمرنا يا رسول الله. So the Sahaba, they asked, Ya Rasulullah, what do you advise us to do? What should we do in times like that? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, أَدُّوا إِلَيْهِمْ حَقَّهُمْ وَسَلُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّكُمْ. That pay the rights of those that are due unto you, and ask Allah for the rights that are due towards you. So the rights of others, you pay them in full. And the rights that are owed to you, other people, the rights that they owe to you, ask Allah for your rights. This hadith has a background. It was said when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam basically was warning the Sahaba that a time will come once I have left from this world that your rulers, your government officials, they will start the treatment on the basis of preference. So they may give preference to their children, their relatives, their friends, over those who are really qualified for something. So for example, there is a job that is available, but the one who's responsible to give that job, he will give that job to that person who is either his friend or his relative or someone that he expects a favor from. So he will refuse to give the job to someone who deserves it, who qualifies for it. Instead, he will give the job to someone only on the basis of favor, on the basis of being the relative or friend or some other matter of preference. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught this to the Sahaba that this will happen, and this did happen. It did not happen during the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Umar radiallahu anhu, Uthman radiallahu anhu, and Ali radiallahu anhu. It did not happen. So it did not happen during the time of the four Khulafa. But after the time of Khulafa, it did happen. Sometime it happened on the local level, sometime it happened on the national level, where preference was given to those who were not qualified, rather they were just friend, relative, or something else. And it is wrong. Islam does not allow that. Islam does not approve of it. Islam does not permit that. But it will happen, and it did happen. And it continues to happen. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is bringing us closer to reality. That accept it. It is a reality that not all people are going to be righteous like Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Not all people are going to be just like Umar radiallahu anhu. Not all people are going to be pious like Uthman radiallahu anhu. Not all people are going to rule with justice and with equality, with fairness like Ali radiallahu anhu. But people will have their own selfish motives as well. So because they have that selfishness in their heart, because they have that favoritism in their heart, in one way or the other, you will see these preferences are given based on friendship, based on being the relative, and based on other things, other than the qualification. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he gave this advice, the Sahaba, they said, فَمَا تَأْمُرُنَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ, O Prophet of Allah, what is your advice when something like this starts to happen? When we do see these things that we do not buy from our leaders, from our rulers, what should we do? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, أَدُّوا إِلَيْهِمْ حَقَّهُمْ وَسَلُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّكُمْ. That give them what is their right on you, give it to them. So if they come for taxes, give it to them. If they come and demand something from you that is not haram, that is not forbidden, give it to them. And as far as your rights are concerned, you ask Allah for dawah. And the rights that are being mentioned here, that are being referred to here, are not the rights that the government has the responsibility to provide for. The rights that the government has a responsibility to provide for, those are the basic rights. And if those are not being fulfilled, then people have the right to protest, have the right to legally and peacefully write petitions, whatever is common. But in matters where it is not possible for you to take your right, don't just go out and commit suicide or kill yourself just because you cannot take a right. Instead, ask Allah for patience and ask Allah for help, because Allah can change everything. Allah has the power to do everything. So if you sincerely ask Allah for help, Allah will bring the help to you. But if you take up on a challenge by yourself, which you are not capable of taking on, then you will destroy yourself and you will destroy others. And in light of this, and there will be many ahadith that will be mentioned later that are part of this subchapter, we can also take a look at what is happening in this so-called Arab Spring, where people are basically united in their effort to change the regime, to change the people who have been ruling them for decades. We can derive an understanding from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there are other hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam which have also expressed that if you alone try to take up on a challenge that you know you cannot complete, then you're only putting yourself in the path of destruction. You're only going to get yourself killed. But if you have a momentum, if you have the courage, and if you have the support to change things for good, then you should not hesitate. Because we as Muslims, we do not stand for injustice. We do not stand for oppression. And if one person is being oppressed, then that same oppression on another day can come to the other person as well. So what was happening in this Arab Spring? And in this Arab Spring, people basically got united against those rulers who had been ruling them for decades with an iron fist and with an oppression. I have never lived in those countries, but people who have lived in those countries, they've personally told me that for decades, the living conditions and all the other things have been really bad. Bribery was very common. Oppression was very common. Injustice was very common. All the things that are not allowed in Islam or in a civilized nation, all those things were considered normal. So people basically were fed up and they took up the challenge. Now, when it did happen in Egypt and even in Syria and in Tunisia and in Libya, there had become two opinions amongst the scholars. Majority of scholars, they said, yes, this is the right thing and this is something that people of those countries should do. They should make every effort to change those rulers and replace them with the good rulers for the good of people and for the good of their nation. But there was also one group of scholars, a small group of scholars, who said no. Who said that in light of some ahadith, it is not befitting, it is not right to take up an armed movement or to lead an armed movement against a government. And their understanding is based on some ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which have in one way this expression that yes, you should continue to suffer in terms of tolerating that oppression that is being committed against you until Allah changes the hearts of those people or Allah changes those people. That has happened in the history as well. In the history of Islam, there were rulers who were oppressors, but people continued to suffer at their hands until Allah replaced them or Allah changed them. So there are these two schools of thought or these two opinions being based on different ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in one hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was approached by one person from Ansar who came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, ista'amalta fulan wa lam tasta'milni. Ya Rasulullah, you made that person a governor and you did not make me a governor. قال إنكم سترون بعدي أثرة فاصبروا حتى تلقوني. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him that soon after me you will see preference given to wrong people, unqualified people. So be patient until you meet with me on how on that fountain. So on the day of judgment, Allah will decide who was right and who was wrong. But in this world, you will continue to bear patience for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now in this hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, obviously he did not do anything wrong. He was not trying to question the authority of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he was trying to understand why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam chose that person to be governor and not me. And in a simple case, a person who's really qualified would not really go up and say, oh, make me the governor. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew that this person was not qualified. But he prepared this person for something that was going to come after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that was going to be very difficult. And that was the treatment of preference. So in the time of Marwan, in the time of other rulers after the Sahaba, after Ali radiallahu anhu, there was this thing very visible that they were handing out these positions and these jobs just on the basis of the tribal relations or family relations or some other favors, not always based on the qualifications. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us tawfiq to practice upon the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ameen wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Any questions? What do you mean? No, not Hanafi or Shafi'i. Those are schools of fiqh. This is among the muhaddithin, amongst the scholars in general, not among the scholars of fiqh, because this is not a fiqh issue. This is an issue based on the difference of understanding of the hadith, and it is not based on the fiqh. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. اللهم صل وسلم على عبدك ورسولك. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد أفضل صلواتك بعدد معلوماتك. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا من الراشدين. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الفتن ما ظهر منها وما بطن. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من أن نرجع على أعقابنا أو أن نفتن في ديننا. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من حال أهل السوء. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من حال أهل النار. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من حال أهل النار. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد